Alright guys, so I was going to go and start taking some of these icon ratchets apart and lubing them up. I'm going to use the super lube, as I talked about in my other video. This is what I use for all my ratchets. Now some of the older ones, like the Craftsman that I have, I do use the synthetic grease, just because the gearing is a little bit not as fine tooth as these newer ratchets. I think so with the super lube, they work really great. So, and I'll let you hear some of them. It's a little bit rougher. You can tell. That's just, I found no matter what make and model, regardless whether it's Snap-on, Matco, Mac, and then my mid-tier ratchets, which I consider like Gear Wrench, these icons, Duralast, all the ratchets y'all seen on my channel. I've taken them all apart, and I've always used the super lube on them, and they've worked great. I've had no issues with them. So we're gonna do the same with these new icons that I picked up for my daughter. But I figured, since I'm already doing that, I wanted to just kind of lay out the Snap-ons and the icons and just kind of look over them and let y'all see them in terms of the comparison, how the design is. Now I get that, you know, Icon pretty much steals all their designs from the Snap-on tool stuff, because they're always marketing that they want, like, hey, compare, like, oh, you know, the price difference, and you know, you can get this tool for much less at an affordable cost and still get the lifetime warranty, which is great and fine. You know, Icon, but with Snap-on, they put a lot of research and development to their tools. They're always coming out with new innovative stuff for the mechanic out there in the world, whereas opposed to Icon, you know, they're just waiting for patents to pretty much die and they can copy it. So, but they're a smaller company. Icon's not a small company, but Harbor Freight or whatever in comparison. Now they do make a lot or carry a lot of tools, but if you look at their website, I mean, it's pretty bare bones in my opinion. But regardless, for the price of an Icon tool, whether it's a ratchet, pliers, whatever, you get a pretty much good bang for your buck. So, you know, if you're not a mechanic and you're not, you know, really wanting to spend a lot of money, it's a really good option. You're still getting that same kind of feel like you would with the Snap-on, which is why I use it for my mobile stuff. So that way, if I lose it or break it out in the outside of my garage, then I'm not too worried about it. But inside my garage, all I primarily use is the Snap-on hand tools, just because it's a lot better. You can tell the difference in quality, obviously, but regardless. So we're gonna open some of these ratchets up, get them lubed up, cleaned up, and then I want to open up some of these Snap-on ratchets so that way y'all can have a look of the gearing, the insides, the guts of it basically, and say, hey, okay, is it pretty similar? Is there any big differences that we can all notice together? So we can get right down into it. Okay, so with this one, I've already been using this one, so that one should be okay. Same thing with this 1/2-inch drive. So let's, this quarter, so let's see, as far as the new one, let's just do this one for now. All right, so as far as for the Torx screws on the Icon, it is a T8. And I'm using a Snap-on to open it up. Okay, before I go any further, let's go and get a magnetic tray so that way I don't lose these screws. That's one thing I love about these roto heads. You can just turn it this way. All right, so the screws do have a little bit of Loctite on there, so that's good. That way they don't back out of you. That's why it was kind of a little stiff to get out. Now, as far as pulling the faceplate off, I just use a magnet. Pull that off. Now let's go ahead and open up this Snap-on one. Now for the Snap-on, it takes a T10. So we'll get the T10 bit on there. We'll take that out and put it in the tray here so we don't lose it. All right, so now we have the icon here on the left and then the snap-on here on the right. So you see the dual pawl and then the one single mass one on the icon. So in terms of the guts inside, even though these two heads are very similar to each other in design, as well as the handles, the insides are different, okay? Now this one is a quick release, so we'll open up a non-quick release and we'll let y'all look at that. All right, so now we have these three opened up. We got the non-quick release and the quick release, and you see that they are the same. They both carry that spring right there. I took this one out here. Total differences, okay? Now when people say the icon is the exact same thing as a snap-on, you can tell them no. It may look different from the outside in terms of the handle, the shape of the head. But if you look at the inside, definitely different, okay? Now you can see that I'm gonna probably clean these up and re-lube them as well too. You can see over time that grease is getting dirty. But in terms of the design, it's a clear difference between the two. This switch is different. Same thing here. Now Snap-on calls this with the dual 80, where obviously this one isn't that same style. Now I can probably check and see what the gear wrench looks like on the inside, if they have similar pawl style or not. But again, you can definitely see that the two are different. So I mean, easy as that. Okay, so back to the original reason why we opened this one up. As far as it looks like they got grease inside of there, so we're gonna pull this out, clean that off with some brake clean, and then get some of this super lube in there. All right, we'll get a towel down here. I'm gonna scoop these out of the way. Let me take this spring out so I don't lose it, just in case. It's the last thing I need. All right, so as soon as you pull this gearing out, there's a little pin and a spring. Make sure you don't lose that. So we got that right there, okay? And then we got the switch right there. So let me grab another towel. All right. So I'm just gonna use regular brake cleaner. Clean some of this out first. All right, let's go and get this gearing cleaned off. So it looks like no O-ring on there or anything. So if there was one, we'd take that off first and then clean it up and then put the O-ring back on. But there is none on here. And then we'll get that gear pawl. Now, if you look at the front facings of the two, they do look similar, but you can tell there's difference. The Snap-on one, which is on the right, is much thicker. Well, not much thicker, but it is thicker, and it is longer. So a little bit more robust faceplate. And then I'll show you the And I dropped one. All right. Okay, so now we got the spring and the little detent in there, little pin that holds the pawl. And then we're gonna stick the gear back in there. Okay, so that's, might need a pick of some sort to hold it. Just because on the switch there's a little face that comes up. Okay, so take the pick, and preferably a straight one. You're gonna hold it down here once you get in. Now this because of this this lip right here, it's hard to get your finger to press this down and then slide it in. So just get this, hold it in, and then slide your gear in there. Okay. Now you heard the ratchet earlier with the grease that they use in there, the assembly grease. We're gonna use a super lube. Okay. I'm gonna spin it a little bit, work that oil in there. And flip that switch, go the other way. Work it back and forth. All right. Now for me, this isn't a thing where, you know, it's gonna last forever, the oil. You will have to periodically, it's kind of like a car. You're gonna have to just periodically change it out. And I gotta get used to that gear selector on the this ratchet. All right, so we're gonna get this cleaned off. Now I won't spray any more brake cleaner on there. You see it's much quieter now. And the one thing I like with the oil is that with grease, it can get between the teeth and cause it to skip sometimes. But with the oil, since it's a much finer fluid, it kind of just gets in there and you actually get that grab on there a lot better, in my opinion. Everyone's got different preferences, but once I found out this stuff, I mean, have not gone back. So, all right. Now, obviously with the oil, you will have to note that over time, because the face is not sealed, it's not a sealed design, kind of like the Craftsman is, you do have the possibility of it kind of leaking out over time. So with that note, I mean, it does lose fluid out of, oil out of there. I mean, not as much as you would think, but enough to where you should just open up every once in a while and just do some maintenance on it. All right, so that took a little bit long. So when you put the snap-on back in, with the spring, there's a little ball bearing inside there. Right there. That spring is gonna move that ball bearing back and forth. So make sure to seat the spring back onto there with the switch in the correct place and the pause, and then you'll be able to get everything back in, and it'll function correctly. I had that spring off on the wrong side, so when you're pushing the switch selector, that ball bearing was actually running into the spring, catching onto it, and not being able to move it. So that spring will actually sit onto the ball bearing, and as you're moving the switch, it moves with it from side to side. That's why you'll see there's only one ball bearing and not one on here. So it'll come over to the other side. So there we go. Nice and smooth. Got it lubed up. Switch works good. So you can tell with that dual paw, slightly smoother action than the Icon, but they'll both be good ratchets to use for a long time. So again, we'll take the anvil out. Now with this faceplate design, I much more prefer this way with the screws as opposed to the retainer clips. I mean, the snap rings. See down here how smooth that is. That's perfect. All right. Okay, so back to order business. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of them done. I won't bore y'all with that. You'll see in the process already. So again, big differences internally for the snap-on versus the Icon. I wanted to say gear wrench for some reason. But again, still great ratchets, both of them. Very budget-friendly ratchet, great for your garage, for DIYers and stuff. Even mechanics. I got buddies that are mechanics full-time, like in diesel shops, and they use Icon and they have no issues with them. I use this in my mobile setup. Now obviously it's not turning 24/7. I am an independent mechanic that does just specific handful of customers, referrals, and then my own cars that I flip. So cars that I buy and end up fixing and selling. That's the only times I use these primarily, all my tools. And again, I mean, as a shop, you know, I just make sure I have everything inside my garage. So, you know, not gonna do who's better, who's not. I'm just saying they're both great ratchets, great tools. If you're looking for something budget friendly, definitely look at the Icon stuff. They don't have a good enough selection like Snap-on does. Snap-on makes tools for everything, but Snap-on is the cream of the crop, in my opinion. So, all right, y'all have a good weekend.